Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. And joining us this week is Zach Covemaker to come back and talk about Gremlins 2.
Finally. The fans have been clamoring for it.
I'm sure they have. Visit us at IHateCritics.com, Everyone's a Critic Podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Alexa, all your podcatchers. We're on YouTube as well. Click on the little bell to get a notification when the new episode arrives. Be sure to subscribe at any platform you listen to us on, and then rate and review us if you can. And then patreon.com/criticspod is the best way to help support the podcast. And if you want some podcast merch, IHateCritics.com. Up in the right-hand corner, there's our TeePublic page with t-shirts, masks, pillows, tote bags, notebooks, magnets, whatever you want, mugs. It's all there. And take a picture of whatever you buy so we know someone bought something. Otherwise, let's get started. We got new trailers this week for the first time in a long time. Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Yeah, Bill and Ted Face the Music, of course, the third Bill and Ted movie that is set to several years, I guess, after their when they become famous, and now they're not famous anymore. This trailer confused the hell out of me. I have no idea where this is supposed to land. Because these are time travel movies, and I thought they were already big stuff. I have no idea. And I honestly was not particularly interested in this. I kind of think I could predict, based off of this trailer, I think I can predict what's going to happen. Is that they're, the idea from the trailer is they're going to go into the future to try and take the song that they wrote from themselves and take it back in time so they could actually have it and create it. Which, okay. But I guess what's going to happen for real is they're going to find out that they didn't actually write the song, and it's going to be like one of their kids wrote the song, and they're going to give them credit or something. I'm just guessing, or their wives or girlfriends will have written the song, and they'll give them credit, something stupid like that. I'm less excited based off of this trailer.
Zach, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I like the first Bill and Ted a lot. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but Bogus Journey, it lost me. I wasn't super into it. When they've been talking about making this movie, I've been here. This is one of those things that you hear every 2 years, and you just yeah, whatever. Who gives a fuck? I got to a point where we finally saw a trailer. I thought I was going to be more excited than I was, and it kind of fizzled out for me. Like, it just kind of I love Keanu. I want to see him go back to doing some goofy shit again, but I don't know. I'm gonna still go see it, but I'm not really holding out any hope whatsoever. I just kind of, I don't know. I miss Carlin. I need some Carlin in this, but it is what it is, I guess. Maybe they'll pull something together, because this is something that they've been wanting to do for fucking 20 years now. They've been wanting it, and maybe they'll try harder to make the wait worth it, but I'm not. Dumb and Dumber 2 was a thing. I'm not holding out any hope.
And I can see them trying harder in the fact that doing what Sean said, which then means they're trying to put some heart to it, and then you just kind of roll your eyes and you're like, well, what'd you do this for? I was never a huge Bill and Ted fan until we went back and watched the 30-year anniversary, and I was all of a sudden I was like, wow, everything ripped off Bill and Ted. As a kid, I actually liked Bogus Journey. I haven't revisited it. I'm sure it'll ruin everything that I remember about it.
It's a bad sequel.
Right, but I was little, so I didn't care.
Dude, I get you.
But then this one, Keanu doesn't even look like he doesn't look this. I don't know. Like the other guy, Alex Winter, is that his name? I can't remember. The one who did get famous. Alex Winter. He looks like he's still kind of the same guy, but Keanu looks like he's trying to find it based on the trailer, the very short trailer with very little information in it. Looks like he's still trying to find the role. Like, you remember what he was doing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just bringing that to it, but it just didn't look the same. It looked more like an SNL
I agree.
sketch.
it also kind of looked like Keanu's not really invested anymore. Like, he does not care. Like, he knows he's got other things. Like, he's got John Wick to do, and this is just kind of something he's doing just to satisfy other people.
Yeah, fan service.
Yeah,
it's weird seeing him without the beard, because we've been seeing him with the beard for so long at this point. Seeing him baby-faced was weird.
Maybe that's what it was.
Well, that is the weird. Saw him.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's like that, and we also saw him murder a couple of guys with like a pencil like a couple years ago. Like it's hard to go back to that.
What is the weird prison set thing? Like, what was that about? That was supposed to be them in prison in the future?
I have no idea.
Understanding that right?
I couldn't tell.
I don't even know. I hope it's just Keanu ended up being a murderer, so they put him in jail, so that way we can get a little bit of John Wick.
And then, Sean, you brought up the trailer Eurovision.
Yeah, Eurovision is a Netflix comedy with Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, in which is centered around the Eurovision Song Contest, which is this international song contest specific to everywhere other than the U.S. Like, we're the only ones who don't care about this, apparently. But Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams play members of a band who get selected to be Iceland's representatives at Eurovision with their terrible song, and nobody likes them. They're the only choice available, so that's how they end up there. And everybody just constantly makes fun of him. Will Ferrell's dad in the movie, and it's incredibly disapproving of him, and that's a running gag throughout the trailer. And you've seen this movie before, because basically Will Ferrell puts on a funny wig and a funny voice and falls down a lot. And it's just you don't need to see this movie. You've already seen it.
Well, even the parents disapproving of him is something we've seen in every movie he's done. Which, now that he's in his 50s, isn't quite the same as it was when he was in his 30s. I don't know.
Desperately humiliating is what it is. He's not made. It's been how long since Will Ferrell made a good movie?
It's been a bit.
It's hard to think of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shit, man.
I mean, he had that run, the Wedding Crashers old school run, but since then it's never really been the same. Anchorman 2, probably.
Yeah, I would think. That was the last time I can remember liking him, because after that he made The House, which is one of the worst movies of the year it came out. Get Hard was a real piece of shit. I mean, it's been a long time since he's done anything worth watching. Holmes and Watson, another one. I mean, he said multiple worst of the year movies. Like, I think Holmes and Watson was the worst movie of last year, and prior to that, The House was the worst movie of the year it came out.
Yeah, he needs to be in a.
And yet I don't hate him the way I hate Gerard Butler.
Right. Well, because when he's with a group of people, when you throw a Paul Rudd in there and a Steve Carell or a Vince Vaughn or whoever else, and get a big cast together, not just him as the lead vehicle, he works better. He works better in small doses. When he has to take that care, if Frank the Tank was all there was to old school would suck. You needed Luke Wilson and Vince Vaughn to make it work.
Yeah.
And I haven't even revisited that. I have no idea how well that holds up. I hope it still holds up well.
It's a good point, though. It's like he's almost a supporting character in old school.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie, it still for the most part holds up. There's some jokes that don't really stand the test of time, but like as a whole, though, I can happily say old school pretty much still holds up.
Good.
When Tina and I moved in with each other, we were going through all my movies. I have 4 copies of Old School, and I don't know how I got 3 of them. Like two of them are unrated, the other 2 are like normal. Like, I don't know where they came from.
You just bought it, didn't realize you had it 4 times.
Yeah, then they just reproduced asexual. I don't know what happened, man. They just kind of just formed.
That's funny.
It's like I've got a lot of copies.
Yeah, that
of
does
Space
seem
Jam.
seem perfect for that movie.
Yeah, it's just like it's one of those things that like college age guys just kind of just accrue. Like it just kind of happens. It's like that, Wedding Crashers, and the first Anchorman. I think all of us have that.
That is true. And then, Zach, I'm only going to bring this up because it's my favorite movie of the year so far. Still, The Hunt. You watched it, and let's recap it. Let's go backwards. Get your take on it.
So, I had heard a little bit about that movie, like before we watched it. Like I knew it caused some huge controversy because of the plot, and like didn't it get canceled or something for a little bit? Or
yes, it did.
So, a few weeks ago, my girlfriend decided to buy it, and I went in completely blind, not knowing that it was a comedy. Holy crap! That was. I love horror comedies. Like I'm hit or miss when it comes to actual horror movies, but like when you give me like a dark sense of humor with like just over the top violence, I am in all the way. Like. Immediately, once that first scene started up, I put down my Switch, I sat up, and I had a smile across my face. I knew what we were in for. I wasn't really expecting the twist, but I started pulling it apart like as we got there. That was a doozy.
Yeah, and I mean, I know what Sean didn't like about it. I mean, overall, he was positive about the movie, but what Sean didn't like about it is what really put it over the edge for me. I love when a movie does a big fuck you and doesn't really care if you get it or not, and they leave enough out that you could totally misunderstand the movie, hence why it got canceled. But that's what I loved even more about it, was just like, you know what, I'm not even going to give you enough to even figure this out. If you're not smart enough to figure this out, fuck you. And I like that about it.
When the first lady screamed out "snowflake" as she was like begging to die, like that part, I was like, this is bigger than I thought. This isn't as black and white as they made it seem.
Right. I mean, it's literally just if arguing on Facebook was like real murder. That's what this movie is. And that's what I love about it. They don't really go there all the way. They like hint at it the whole time, but they never fully. You have to come there on your own, and I don't know. I just love that about this movie.
I do too. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is something that halfway through watching it, I had texted like my brother and all my friends, telling them to get on my Vudu and watch that immediately. Like it's just one of those things. It's just like people need to see it. It's crazy.
I've already seen it 3 times this year.
Hell yeah.
All right, let's get to the new movies, and we'll start with the Disney Plus film Kenneth Branagh, Artemis Fowl.
All right. Now, yeah, Artemis Fowl is a story that is a popular book series by I can't remember the guy's name. Ewan Coleman, I think his name is. Something Colbert. Ewan Colbert. That's it. And basically, the idea here is of a 12-year-old criminal genius, or at least that's the book series. The movie positions the kid as somebody who's not aware that his father has kind of a criminal background. His father's played by Colin Farrell, and his father ends up getting kidnapped, and he's got to follow all these various clues that his dad left behind in order to figure out who kidnapped him and why. It leads all this way to this thing called the Aculos, which is this mythic thing that belongs to fairies, and this fairy community that lives underneath the ground that humans aren't aware of, and that the kid himself thought was just this bedtime story that his dad told, but they actually are real. And this is a silly kind of take off on Harry Potter and all that stuff. And I didn't hate this. I know I'm supposed to, like, because everybody hates this movie. Everybody's dunking left and right on this movie, calling it the worst movie of the year. And I'm like, there's so much you haven't seen then, because this is not that bad. Right? Exactly. and go back and catch that movie. This is not that terrible, and I don't understand the hatred this is getting. Kenneth Branagh is a pretty good director, and he captures a few solid visuals. The kid, all really. The supporting players are fine. You know, Judi Dench humiliates herself again, but she's kind of getting used to that. She's kind of wearing one of these humiliating green fairy costumes. She just looks ridiculous, and she has to put on a ridiculous voice too. So not everything about this movie is great, but I think I'm almost reacting to so much of the negativity that it makes it seem like I really love this movie. I don't love it. I just don't understand why people hate it so much.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I went in expecting like fully to hate it. Like I this has been one of those things. Like I read that book 15 years ago, and they've been talking about the movie since then. Like they've been talking about it for a long time because Harry Potter blew up, and then like all the like they needed to like capitalize on its success, and it kind of just got stuck in like production hell for ever. And yeah. I kind of just lost interest completely. And then like they were talking about how like Disney was making it, and then like everyone like some friends of ours, Sean, had been talking about it and were telling me that they were excited about it and stuff like this. And honestly, up until like a couple weeks ago when I heard that it was actually like coming to Disney Plus, I didn't give a shit. I kind of dug it. Like there was a lot of like cool like special effects and stuff. I love Josh Gad. I mean, that's a dude, like just about anything he's in, I'm on board. I love that guy. And watching him as a dwarf shoveling dirt while like farting out the mud is something I wanted to see that when I was a kid. When I remember them like describing it in vivid detail, and I saw it. But yeah, wow. it was it's one of those movies that I don't think could have done well in the theaters on its own. Like if it didn't have, no, I really don't. Especially like just what I was reading online. I mean, this is a book series that's not really popular anymore. It was 15 years ago, like when like we were all reading it and stuff. But like I know it's not that popular. I know recently they started converting them to like graphic novels, and like maybe kids are reading that and they're getting into that. But like as far as I know, like this series was kind of like irrelevant. But when you put something like this on Disney Plus, like hell yeah, it's gonna blow up. Like this is gonna get them a sequel. Like this, unfortunately, this pandemic like kind of helped them out. Like they're probably not going to make as much money as they normally would have, but now they're going to get at least more incentive to continue. And I'll admit, if I remember correctly, like the other books get pretty crazy. Like there's some cool stuff coming along. So maybe part 2 or whatever will end up being cool. Maybe that'll be like the shit. That'll like catapult this to where it needs to be or something.
I think people have made up their minds how much they hate it. And they yeah, I mean, the dunking on this movie on Twitter, just watching that unfold was just sort of just odd. Like this is not a movie that deserves this level of ire, considering all that I've seen.
No, like it's a dumb movie. Like I'll say it's like a C movie, but it's not. It's not the travesty that everyone's portraying it. Like it's not Aragon or like the first like series of unfortunate events. Like it's not a bad book adaptation.
It's just not. I don't know anything about the book, but it's not a terrible movie. Like Bob, I think if your kids watched it, they would probably enjoy it. And I think that's where this movie is aimed at kids of that age. This is for them. This is adult audience. Like so angry and dunking on this movie as they are. It's just weird.
So how much of it is? Guys Zach's age that read it 15 years ago that wanted something else, and how much of it is sometimes when a movie should be better, I tend to hate that more than to say Fantasy Island. I just throw Fantasy Island to the side, and it's like Man on Fire. I can't stand that movie because it should have been so great. There's really nothing wrong with Man on Fire. It's just they didn't go where they should have gone. And I don't know why I'm picking on that movie right now, but but
Denzel.
Right, but like Deuce Bigelow, I don't care. Crash sucked. That's the worst movie of the year. Fuck,
right.
Deuce Bigelow wasn't even trying to be a good movie. Is this any of that where it's, you got Kenneth Branagh's a good director, but maybe he didn't deliver, or is it more just that age of people who read the books as kids didn't like it when they were in their late 20s, early 30s?
I've kind of heard both ways. Like there's some who are really tied to the book. They're really annoyed about changes, but then I think I also heard a lot of people like, this cost $125 million. They spent $125 million on this nonsense that doesn't make any sense, even though it makes total sense, if you ask me. They call it, the word I keep reading is incomprehensible. But I'm like, read my review. I wrote a pretty concise, straightforward plot description. It made complete sense to me, and I've never read books.
Yeah, it's from on my end. Like I'm getting more of the guys my age, the neckbeards, who are just like, this wasn't my Artemis Fowl. Like, it's just.
But that's
like
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say that's the cool thing about the kids my age is they're not on Twitter, so they can still watch it. So who knows what the numbers really are? Yeah, there's a lot of hate on Twitter, but maybe people are watching it though. So if enough are watching it, they may get a sequel.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know what exactly Disney's model is for new stuff. Like, how they decide what they're gonna. I mean, I guess Netflix has a thing where they consider like the number of people who watch a movie worth the amount of money they spend on it. So I guess that's probably what Disney does too. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm hoping it gets something, because I know like there's an audience out there for this, and I think, I mean, like I don't really care about this series anymore, but the kid side of me wouldn't mind seeing this actually get like the proper treatment and like get at least a couple more movies. But I don't know, like Bob said earlier, it's not really for me. Like it's not made for me. It's kind of like when Michael Bay redid like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. At first I got like real mad, but then I realized like, oh shit, like I'm in my 20s. it's time to grow up. And then they made that second one, which was like perfection. But that's neither here nor there. Like I would like to see I'd like to see more out of this. I'd like to see him at least get a sequel.
I don't care if they make a sequel, because by the time they get it done, hopefully I'll be back in movie theaters. I'll never have to see it, because I don't really. I don't hate this, but I don't like it enough to ever want to see it again.
Oh no, I've never watched it again. Like unless I have like, God forbid, I had kids.
All right. Long Gone Summer. Is that what it's called? The ESPN 30 for 30?
Yes, Long Gone Summer, which debuts on June 14th, Sunday night. It's the story of the 1998 home run chase between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. And this is unique because it doesn't necessarily deal all that much with steroids. It's there, and they do mention it. They do bring it up at the end, but this is not hard-hitting journalism that's taking place here. This guy is not going to push McGwire or Sosa about their time in front of the spot when it came to steroids. He wants to take you back to 1998 and that feeling of hysteria that was taking place at the time that swept the entire country. And I got to say, he's really good at that. He's really good at taking you back to that. I've always been kind of ambivalent about the steroid thing, but I was totally wrapped up in not caring at all about steroids and just watching home runs and just like, yeah, this is fun. Like, I did come away with a couple of observations about, like, Sammy Sosa's turned into this real douchebag of a guy. Like, he's such a loser now. He's just so full of himself and like just does not. Oh God, he's just awful as a person. But at the time, though, he was charming. I mean, you can't forget '98 when he was so necessary to making McGuire be better, because McGuire's not a guy who likes to talk to the media, likes to have the spotlight, and having Sammy with him just made him better, made him more entertaining, made the whole thing more entertaining. And this movie does an amazing job of just putting you back in that moment and that fever of like nightly watching every night and having ESPN breaking in just to show you Mark McGuire's at bat or Sammy Sosa's at bat. That's happening live. Like whatever you were watching, forget that. This is on now. Broadcasting nearly every game towards the end of the season was exciting, and that's undeniable. We can't pretend just because steroids happened that this didn't happen also. And the way he brings that nostalgia, even out of the fog of all that happened afterwards, is really impressive. I was really just back in that wonderful mindset of just like, oh, that was fun. I don't want to ever forget that feeling. I don't care about what happened afterward anymore. I really loved that summer, and that's what this movie does.
Yeah, I was my first year at college. Or before college. It was after I graduated in '98, and then that summer, and then I went to college in the fall. I had never been to a Cubs game before at that point. My dad just hated sports, and so he never took us to a game. And I mean, Ryan Sandberg was my favorite player, so I never got to see him play live. But the first game I went to, Sosa hits 3 home runs in June of that year. Kerry Wood pitched, and the coach got ejected. And that was, I think, what he hit like 20 in June or something like that, or he set some record. But I never liked Sosa, and I was a huge Cub fan, but Ryan Sandberg wrote a book called Second to Home, and part of the reason he quit was because the Cubs traded George Bell to the White Sox for Sammy Sosa, and he didn't like, I don't know, just they lost Maddox, things were and he didn't have very good things to say about Sammy Sosa, and I just never liked him since then because I like to listen to my heroes, and if they don't like somebody, I'm not going to like them.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I was rooting for McGuire the whole time while wanting the Cubs to go to the playoffs and hopefully win the World Series, which did not happen. So in the end, it was all for nothing anyway, as far as I'm concerned. But I was the lone Cub fan out there wanting McGuire to do better than Sosa at the time.
I wasn't aware of anything wrong with Sammy at the time, so I was all about it just because the team was winning and Sammy was hitting home runs, and it was very exciting, and I love the way this movie captures that, and it does cop out big time on steroids, like hugely. Like they don't even ask Sammy about steroids, like they don't even have the nerve to ask him to offer the defense that he's offered in the past, where he's never he's basically said, I never officially tested positive, is what he said, which is basically true. But they don't even ask him to say that. They have like another journalist, like a Chicago journalist, saying what Sammy's always said about that. Like that's the level of the lack of care that they have for the steroid stuff. McGuire is a little bit more forthcoming, but and he's shared the same point that he always shares, which is, hey, what I was taking at the time was perfectly legal over the counter, and it wasn't even against the rules of baseball. And again, he's not wrong.
Right.
I thought that at the time too. Like, why are you wrapping up McGuire in this? You didn't do anything that was against the rules of baseball at the time. You made it subsequently illegal, and like suddenly he's a bad guy. That didn't make any sense to me.
Right. No,
I think. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You finished your point.
I just think that this kind of tapped into that side of me that's kind of always been there about how entirely ambivalent I've always been about steroids, almost kind of a libertarian attitude about steroids, where it's like, if you want to do it, go ahead. Like, it's your body. And I don't really think steroids can help you hit a baseball. I think maybe it can help you hit it a little further, but I don't think it helps you hit a baseball.
What they do is they keep you refreshed. That's a long baseball season, so you recover, and that's the main thing that they're going to help with. It's not so much the power, but it prolongs your career. I mean, McGuire, Bonds, all those guys. But again, I'm neither here nor there on it either. And it sounds like this documentary doesn't really care, and I'm okay with that. That's a different documentary that wants to deal in the steroids. This is more about getting you to relive that summer, and if that's where they're going, then that's the movie. The documentary succeeds. I'm not going to get mad at it because it doesn't go hard on steroids when it doesn't want to. That's a different movie, so who cares as far as I'm concerned.
I almost love the idea that it's trolling everybody who's so butthurt about steroids. Which is mostly just the asshole baseball purists who just ruin everything with their what it's like. What do you want to? I don't know what to call them exactly, but they just whine about everything. Babe Ruth did this. Hey, you know what? Babe Ruth never faced a black guy, so don't talk to me about fucking Babe Ruth.
Right. Every era's got bullshit. The 80s were all about amphetamines. I mean, it was, there was always something. Every era of baseball has to have an asterisk on it. I mean, any sport, really. I mean, even watching the Michael Jordan thing, it's like you can't really compare Jordan to Kobe to LeBron. Jordan never got to grow up with Michael Jordan in his life, and that matters. That's
a good point.
So, but I don't know. I don't really care one way or the other. That said, when my brother was in high school, he got hurt on the football field, and the coach came out and he goes, "I got this clear cream they use on racehorses. I'm going to put it on your leg. It'll help you heal faster." Fast forward 5 years, Bonds is rubbing clear cream on his body and hitting more home runs than McGwire and Sosa. So that was kind of where it got creepy, where coaches started doing that to kids. That's where I don't like it. I don't really care about the athletes themselves because whatever. I mean, prolong your career, do great. Roger Clemens, you still have to have the skill to do what you did. I think it's just hypocritical. I mean, I understand why they're doing that, but at the same time, there's so many asterisks that you could pull a lot of guys out of the Hall of Fame, not just the steroid guys and Pete Rose. So it's really basically Ken Griffey Jr. being there by himself is where we do.
That's so true, and I find it humorous. The baseball purists who want to change the rules on McGwire in the middle of the game. Like, he didn't for a time. He had that stuff sitting in his locker where everybody could see it,
right?
Because he knew it wasn't against the rules,
right?
So then you go and change the rules afterwards, and he's his fault guy.
Well, and even worse,
I guess what it comes down to, though, a lot with the McGwire stuff, what it comes down to is people assume that he was doing harder stuff when he was Oakland.
Right, but I don't know. I mean, even in the end, the guy that came down on harder than everybody else was Bonds, and it's only because he was black. He's the one who got it more than Clemens. They went on all of them. So, but Bonds is the one they really went to the most, and that's the whole thing is just it's hypocritical. It's bullshit, and it's an era, and we just gotta say that was the era and move on. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
I hear you. Zach, are you a sports fan, or do you care about sports at all?
I am. The baseball is basically the only one I'm not really into. I do remember that whole period because my parents are massive Cubs fans. So I did watch a lot of that stuff. I had gone on a field trip and I had seen Mark McGwire play. I saw a home run once. That was pretty tight. But I'm not really as connected to baseball as I am like NBA or NFL and stuff like that. Like I'm more into pretty much everything else, to be honest with you.
Have you ever seen a picture of Bob next to a picture of Mark McGwire?
I have not.
It's insane. Like, it is separated at birth levels of crazy how much he looks like McGwire.
Damn. Good for you.
and I went, well, he's not an attractive man. Let's not be.
Hey, man.
He's just popular. When I went, but like I said, I went to college, so I'm meeting new people for the first time, and Mark McGwire is the biggest celebrity, him and Sosa. So right away, everybody started calling me Big Mac, which was really awkward because not only am I fat, so you can take it two different ways. But yeah.
That's funny. I will say, though, probably my favorite piece of media that got released last year was the Lonely Islands Netflix special, the unauthorized Bash Brothers experience, where it was a whole rap visual poem of Mark McGuire and Jose Canseco.
You enjoyed that? I got bored after a while. I liked it for a couple minutes, and then
I loved it. It was my type of weird. Like it got me like instantly. That's one of those things. If I have like a really shitty day of work, it's only a half hour, so I'll come home, I'll pop that on. Like it's short enough to cheer me up. It's good.
All right, let's move on to the King of Staten Island, Judd Apatow.
Yes, new Judd Apatow movie with Tommy Davidson of Saturday Night Live, telling us basically what is essentially his life story in many ways. His father was a firefighter who died on September 11th. They don't use that as a plot point here, however. His father is a firefighter who dies in a different type of fire. He's essentially been used that sort of, I don't want to say he uses it as an excuse, because it is a legitimate trauma at a time when a child doesn't know how to deal with a real trauma, and so that would carry on for many years, but it goes on for quite some time. He's about 24 when we joined this story. He's still living in his mother's basement, smoking pot every day, and having zero ambition other than a terrible idea about a restaurant where you get a tattoo. This just sounds like something a 14-year-old would come up with.
I'm in. This movie sounds like a great time.
So Marissa Tomei plays his mom. She's really good, and she meets a new man played by Bill Burr, who is also a firefighter, and this reopens a whole bunch of trauma for the character Scott, played by Davidson. This is not necessarily your typical Judd Apatow movie. There's elements of Apatowian humor, like there are jokes, but the jokes are almost they almost feel like they're out of left field and kind of forced, like Tommy Davidson's or Pete Davidson is doing this because he's kind of required to, and he kind of lets a joke linger for too long because that's more his style. His style is a little bit more awkward and freeform, and Apatow wants to hit an actual joke here and there, and the two style, it's not like they were at war necessarily, but they don't mesh perfectly, and thus the movie kind of drifts at times. So there are times when it's really funny, and there are times when it's actually kind of moving, and I was impressed with Pete Davidson's emotional vulnerability at times. I do feel for this character a great deal, because I don't think that, like I said, he suffered a trauma at a very early part of his life that he was not prepared for. No 7-year-old can be prepared for that kind of trauma. And it's understandable that trauma would linger for as long as it does, especially with a mother who's kind of allowing it to fester as she did. I found that to be moving in the end. But this movie goes on way too long, and there are times where it is just drifting, and it doesn't appear to be drifting anywhere particularly interesting. So it's kind of a mixed bag. I like a lot of this movie, but I don't love this like I do other Apatow movies.
I mean, you could make that argument about all Apatow movies, though. They all go on a little long and drift, even the good ones. But this one, where the difference is, I go back to a lot of those and rewatch them. I like this a lot, but I'll probably never watch it again because there's not enough. It's not a fun movie to watch like some of the other ones are. There's some scenes in here though that are amazing. When he tattoos that 14-year-old, oh my god! Or how was he, 14 or 12 or 9? I don't remember how old he was. I think he was 9, and he thought he was 14.
Yeah, a very young kid. Yeah,
and I was just like, that was laugh out loud funny in an uncomfortable way. But at the same, I don't know. I liked it quite a bit. But I look at a movie like The Big Sick, and I'm thinking Judd Apatow could never make that movie because he's not capable of being tight. None of his movies are tight movies, and But he's fun to watch for the most part, and they're very good. He has a lot of heart in his movies, and like this does clash a little bit, like you're saying, with him wanting to do something and Pete probably wanting to do something else, but it still works. It's very good. I'm glad I watched it. I mean, there's definitely bring you to tear moments in this movie. It's just really good. It's just not like if you would tighten this up, it could be a big sick good, and instead it's a really good movie. More than anything, I'm happy for Pete Davidson because hasn't had that. He's been a successful comedian. Obviously, he's on SNL, but he's also the butt of every joke on SNL. And because he's had troubles, he's been in the TMZ a lot and all that stuff. But this is he really does carry this movie. He's a star by far, and he really does shine in it, and it works. And I'm really happy on what he did, and I hope he can kind of keep his career going this way because he was really great in this movie, and I don't know, it's worth watching once for sure. I think
I just get it for what I'm thinking about this movie is that the clash between Apatow and Pete Davidson's sort of style is that, like, take Knocked Up for an example. They've got that running joke about Martin Starr's beard, and every once in a while, if the movie is kind of searching for a joke, they'll just go back to that. And and that's the thing is that Apatow likes to have extra jokes just in case, if things are drifting for too long, he's got this extra joke somewhere that he's going to throw in. And I don't think Pete Davidson's necessarily comfortable with that kind of humor. He's more interested in making things awkward and drawing things out a little bit more as opposed to having a typical setup punchline kind of a gag. And I think that for me that clash works occasionally, and then when it doesn't work, there's just long periods of where it's awkward and it's not funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think Funny People, Trainwreck, and this all, I think Trainwreck's the best of the three, but he groomed Seth Rogen and all these guys, and Paul Rudd he made a star, or he was part of the reason why Paul Rudd kind of blew up and became a star later on, or a second wave. Then he gets with Adam Sandler. He grew up with Adam Sandler, and he has him lead a vehicle. Then he brings in Amy Schumer, and he kind of blows her up and has her lead this. And I was doing it with Pete Davidson, and I think all three of those you can see. Those are the three I have gone back to the least. I will say Trainwreck probably the one. If I go back to any of them, it would be that. But they're definitely, all three of them have that clash of there's of Apatow versus the star, and the clash isn't the right word, but for lack of a better word, that's where there's something that his style and their style, it doesn't always work the same, but in a way it's cool because he's allowing Amy Schumer and Adam Sandler and Pete Davidson to really lead the movie the way they want to, while also putting his taste on it, and for the most part it works. But you're right, there's just points where when it's not funny and it's starting to float along, that's where you just kind of like, oh my god, there's still an hour and a half left. His movies are long. His movies are very long. But I don't know, I still recommend it. I mean, what he does, the tattoo at the end of the movie, I thought was going to be something super moving, and oh my god, that I loved that. That paid off, but it took a while to get there. I don't know. I'm glad I saw it. I recommend watching it once, but it's not one you're going to go back to a lot, if ever.
Zach, any interest in seeing this movie?
Oh yeah, I am. I like me some Pete Davidson. I was kind of sad when it was rental only, because it's one of those things. If I'm gonna spend $20 for something digitally, I'd like to own it. So I'm waiting the month or two or however long it's gonna be. But no, I like him a lot. We watch Saturday Night Live every week, and generally his bits have been like the best part of the show because it hasn't really been that great recently. But yeah, I like the guy. I know I'm not really supposed to like the guy because I'm also a huge Mac Miller fan, but it is what it is. I want him to. I hope I like it. basically like kind of what Bob's saying though. Like I'm in. Like it sounds like kind of something that's a little up my wheelhouse.
But I mean, when you throw in real life into this too, Pete Davidson is so self-deprecating over the years that now, a lot of the jokes on SNL are like the Pete Davidson's the punchline, and I think he's getting annoyed with that.
You can definitely tell with that too. Like you can see in his face, like he's getting pissed off. He wants to like hit Colin Jost when he's like really getting in on him.
Right, and I think he's even said so much in an interview. But this really does. And then he released a comedy special that I didn't think was very good. But again, comedy is so subjective. It definitely wasn't for me. Hopefully, it was for a younger audience. But this is really good, and he's really good in it. And I don't know, you definitely should see it.
I like
Apatow.
It's
not one though. You need to. That's essential though. Like to rush out. Like you're absolutely right, Zach. Not to pay $20 to see it.
Yeah, I like Apatow, but his last couple, the last one that I really, really liked was This Is 40. That's been a little bit, so it's not like I'm not super hyped on him right now where I have to see it today. But
he's a better producer than he's not a great director. He's a decent storyteller, but he has a hard time cutting the fat. And when you're watching 40-Year-Old Virgin or Knocked Up, the fat's kind of fun, it's tasty. But when you're watching this, it's just like you're not getting the emotional depth, but you're not getting the humor either, and it's just kind of getting you to the next either joke or next moving moment, and trim it up, find a way to make it tighter. I don't know, but it is what it is. All right, should we move on?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, come on, phone.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
Knocked Up.
Over a decade ago, man, 2007. It's been that long since Knocked Up came out. Like the people in this movie are like real adults now. Knocked Up is about a stoner guy played by Seth Rogen who somehow miraculously hooks up with a super hot producer played by Katherine Heigl, who's way out of his league, and he ends up getting her pregnant. And I find this movie just endlessly hilarious, just beginning to end. These are just really great jokes with really great people. Like these are just characters that are so easy to like. And even Katherine Heigl, who doesn't have a great reputation, comes off well enough in this movie to be likable, to not have to entirely be the full-on buzzkill the whole time. The movie doesn't dislike her. It gives her a perspective and a point of view, which oftentimes movies like this tend to make women more of the scold. And I like that she gets a lot of opportunities to be funny and to be herself and she's right. He does need to grow up. She's not, but she's also really accepting of who he is. There's just this brief snippet of a scene where she's actually watching porn with him because they've got this disgusting website that they're putting together that is a ripoff of Mr. Skin, which again has a great payoff.
They were watching Carrie. Let's not call it porn. It was Carrie.
Well, whatever they were watching.
To Carrie.
The point is that she's helping him, and with this thing, it's just kind of a demonstration of just that she's not necessarily just the cool chick. She accepts who he is, and I like that. And I like a lot of this movie, all of this movie. It's just it's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's just these wonderful characters and lots of jokes. And that's one of the things of early Apatow with this and 40-Year-Old Virgin is that there are just jokes for days. Like the jokes rarely ever slow down, and I love that approach. I've always enjoyed that approach of his.
Yeah, even the jokes that don't hold up 13 years later or are cringy. They still matter because that's we talked different 13 years ago. I mean, it wasn't shortly after this that they stopped doing gay jokes and stuff like that. But I don't know. I get Katherine Heigl's point because her reputation really started after this movie when she kind of came out and trashed it. But at the same time, we were talking about that David Spade movie earlier and all the Happy Madison movies, and they're they're white guys telling their perspective on the world, and they're not doing it very well, but they get to do it. And it wouldn't matter if you got other perspectives more. This is that only well made, and it does show the other perspectives, like you were saying. But I am a white guy, and 13 years ago I was in my mid 20s. I was slightly older than them, and it definitely appealed to me. I could relate to everybody. I mean, I never was a pothead or anything like that, but I could still relate to the immaturity they had, and. And now, kind of being what Paul Rudd's age was in the movie, I can relate to his side of it. And it still, works for the white male audience for sure. I think it works for everybody. But this is just a well-made version of that. And there's no sense in saying anything bad about it because it's made for white males more than anything else, I guess. I don't know. Because it achieves what it's going for, and I just find it really fun and funny, and I still don't like. I wish she would have never came out and said bad things about this movie because I think she's great in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the easily the best thing she's ever done, and it's unfortunate that she didn't like it, but she's quite good at it, and I like her chemistry with Seth Rogen. I think they play off of each other very well. There's a quality to them. They're like that at first, like she's not going to want to have anything to do with this guy, and she's absolutely right not to. And, kind of forced into being in the realm with him and finding things to like about him. And he does eventually grow up and step up to be a better person, and it's a solid, simplistic art. But again, the real standout for me are the jokes because there are just so many jokes. And Paul Rudd is a walking joke throughout the entire movie. This shitty smile on his face the entire time. He's just such a prick, and it's brilliant. And then that leads into This Is 40, which is again just that makes that film so much better. Having this movie to inform who he was and who he becomes, I love it. I love it.
But what he does is so real life. I mean, those fights that him. I mean, that's the fat on this movie is really the Paul Rudd Leslie Mann part of the movie. But it's so much fun that I don't care. You could really trim all that out and tighten this up really good and have a decent Kevin Smith movie. But because of I love the Leslie Mann Paul Rudd chemistry, the interactions, and the way he gets annoyed with her and the way he acts is very real. And then at the end, when he's trying to be a better husband, he could easily keep acting the same way when he got the wrong cupcakes, and instead he just says, "Hey, I'll go get the right ones." And she's like, "You know what? It's not a big deal." Had he done a little bit different, that'd have been a big fight. And even seeing that, I mean, it's a little thing, but it's captured really well. And even the fights between Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl, everything is so real, the way they capture it. And I buy, it doesn't really feel like a movie about a guy and a girl when she's out of his league. I mean, it's there, but that's not what this is about. You buy that she really can like this guy. And you buy her how she's conflicted, how there's things she really likes about him, and then she wants him to grow up, and there's all of that really comes off as if you don't have to stretch for it. It works, and I don't know. I've always liked this movie. This is kind of the ones where I do feel like the audience was split. If I'm not mistaken, Josh did not like this movie. My brother hates this movie, and I don't understand why. But I love everything about it. I was up till 2 a.m. finishing it because I love it that much.
I love that. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. This came out at a good time for me because, Seth Rogen and his friends were basically me and my friends in high school. So it was like, the whole shebang. That movie I've seen so many goddamn times that I will always laugh at that scene where Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd take shrooms and go to Cirque du Soleil. Like that whole scene is so perfect. It is so good, and I I think that I will laugh at that scene till I die. I love every bit about it. I love that scene where Seth Rogen, Katherine Heigl, have to escape the house because of an earthquake, and he saves his bong and doesn't care about her.
I mean, I would watch Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd do buddy stuff forever, and I wanted him to keep doing it. I mean, 40-Year-Old Virgin, they were really the best part of that movie, those two together, and then this, and it's just like, and they haven't really done anything together since that I can think of. That's all. I would watch that every year for the rest of my life if they would do. I don't care if it's bad or not, because again, the Cirque du Soleil part is fat on that movie. You could totally cut that part, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. The bit with the chairs. Oh, boy, that just kills me every time.
There's just so much to love about that movie. Like that. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like I missed this Apatow. Like I missed the one that's just like it felt like every movie was just like a slam dunk, like every single time. And this was that one for me. This is something that I hold dear.
You know, that's what's missing from King of Staten Island too, as well, is the lack of a colorful character surrounding him, because Pete Davidson's friends aren't particularly funny or interesting, whereas he allows the characters in this movie, Jay Baruchel, Jonah Hill, Jason Segel, to have like an inner life going on. Like they've got an entire life happening all around this, and that could probably be their own movie somewhere off doing something else, because they've got so much life and so much wit, and they'll just walk into a scene and just say something stupid and juvenile, and it hits just about every time.
But you gotta, I think why it hits, though, and I don't think Apatow's style has changed. I think, these are the guys from Undeclared and 40-Year-Old Virgin, or Freaks and Geeks. He taught them to be who they are, He really groomed them, and then they all have this chemistry, and it just works together. He just puts the camera down and lets people react. They take a million takes, and he just kind of puts it together, and that's where you get that lingering style. I think he does in King of Staten Island. It's just that's Pete Davidson's chemistry with his friend. I don't know who those guys are, if they grew up together, if they know each other as actors and are friends, or if they're just straight up actors. But it's not the same because there's no. It's just he's bringing himself to Pete Davidson's lifestyle, and that it doesn't work the same. It still works. It just doesn't work the same way it does here, because they were all kind of on the same page at all times. And so I don't really think his style has changed as much as he's adding new people to the pot. And that one, you didn't see anybody really from the old Apatow movies in King of Staten Island, but here everybody's there, and I don't know. I could watch this movie over and over again. And then the pink eye bit alone is, and then they play that back in Vegas.
You don't know how many times after I saw that I'd fart in my brother's pillows. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Sorry, Nate, if you're listening.
It's horrible.
Hey man, do what you gotta do. This movie came out. It was 2007. Yeah, I was young. I was 13.
And my favorite part too, with not even about the movie, is just after Kevin Smith saw the 40-Year-Old Virgin, he locked onto Seth Rogen. He goes, "I'm going to make that guy a star." So he starts writing Zack and Mary, and before he can even get Seth to read the script, all of a sudden he sees posters for Knocked Up, and he's like, "God damn it, I'm too late." And then he made, I think, Zack and Mary was the first movie to not make $100 million that Seth Rogen was in.
I love that movie.
That was a good movie.
But Knocked Up's awesome, and I now own it streaming because I wasn't going to rent it and then fall asleep and not get to finish it. I'm sure I own the Blu-ray as well. It's my old school. 1990, Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy is the movie written and directed by Warren Beatty and starring Warren Beatty as Detective Dick Tracy, who's the top detective in this town that's kind of has this big mob in it that's headed up by Al Pacino, with all these various weird characters have all been, I don't know, they were hit by some kind of bomb that mutated them. I have no idea what's wrong with these guys. But anyway, it's based off a very, very, very old comic strip from the 30s and 40s. And it's a weird movie. It was a huge hit back in 1990. And Warren Beatty's career was at a point where he was coming off of Ishtar. This is the movie he made immediately after that failed. And he just bounced right back because that's what big stars do. But I honestly, watching this movie, I find myself returning to a thought that I've had numerous times, that I've always been kind of unwilling to accept or unwilling to vocalize. I don't understand the appeal of Warren Beatty. I don't find him appealing. I don't find him charismatic. I think at some point, I'm assuming women found him attractive. He just seems like an old guy here. And I just have never really gotten the whole Warren Beatty thing. I mean, I had the same experience with Shampoo. Like, Shampoo is an incredibly boring movie that I don't understand why people loved. And he was great in Bonnie and Clyde, but again, not the most charismatic performer, especially in that movie.
Well, yeah, I think we found out that movie was highly overrated too.
Yeah. I don't know, and this movie kind of hinges on whether or not you like him, and I think he's more interested in the visuals that he's creating as a director, which are interesting. They're interesting visuals. He's got this whole comic book background sort of thing going on, this cartoon background, this matte painting that's in every wide shot. That's kind of an interesting approach. It's different, so I like that. The costume design is very outlandish. The legendary Dick Tracy, totally not functional, by the way, because if he's got to go into a place where he's not going to be seen, bright yellow is not exactly the best choice, but nevertheless, he's a bright yellow trench coat, bright yellow hat. Then they've got all these villains who just look like mutations, and the opening of the film just kind of confuses me. Like this whole big shootout happens where these mobsters come in and bust in the room, and they start shooting all these guys who are playing cards. Like, there's this guy with a tiny face, and there's just a bunch of mutated guys sitting around a table. The cops arrive, and the cops are like, "We don't know who any of these people are." How the fuck don't you know who the guy with the tiny face is? Like, you don't recognize that guy? He doesn't stand out for you in this universe? Are you kidding me? There's a lot of shit like that where you're just kind of distracted by nonsense. Madonna's in this movie and is fine, I guess. I find her attractive, and I think that's pretty much what the movie does. Is, yeah, she's really attractive, isn't she? Yeah, she is. Okay, great, we agree. I don't understand why this movie was a hit. I think it's a lot of just it's a middle-aged gentleman kind of indulging something that he must have loved as a child, and cool. Okay, I have no frame of reference for this like you do. I don't get Dick Tracy.
Yeah, I wondered. I remember liking it as a kid. I can't remember if I liked it or not, to be honest, because it clearly would be too confusing for a kid. But it's definitely for kids, which is weird. And I wanted to know why it fell off the face of the earth after it was a huge hit. And the only reason I can think of is because Batman exists. It's too much like the '89 Batman, only it's Dick Tracy. No one gives a shit about Dick Tracy. You got a very similar score. I think the same guy did it, Danny Elfman, right?
Very similar, yeah.
And
yeah, I think so.
I mean, it looks like a comic book. It does go a little more over the board comic book, but Batman would look like a comic book too, just in a different way. It was too much like the '89 Batman. It didn't, and that movie still holds up and it's still great. That I think that's the main reason this isn't good or doesn't last. I mean, you got a great cast. Al Pacino gets to be the annoying Al Pacino, and it works in a comic book movie. But it's still I was getting bored by the end, and I don't know. No one in my family wanted to watch it. I wanted my kids to watch it, my wife to watch it, and be like, "Is this good? Does it hold up?" And I lost out to the next movie we're going to talk about, which boggles my mind. I don't understand why we had to pay for that one. This one was free.
You know why?
Shut up, Zach. The bizarreness of this movie, like the characters, the continuing ability of these characters to be surprised by the sight of one of these ridiculous looking characters is just another aspect of this. Like, there's a character who has no face, and it's just a mask, but they have no face, and everybody's kind of like surprised, like, how does this person have no face? Have you not seen everybody else in this fucking movie? Like, you should not be surprised that there's a person who has no face running around.
Yeah.
I don't. But then, like, they comment upon the weird appearance of these guys, and then other times they just completely ignore it, as if this is perfectly normal. And none of these people look perfectly normal. There's a guy named Flat Top in the movie, and the entire top of his head is flat and wide. Like,
right.
These are not the most inventive names. Dustin Hoffman plays a character named Mumbles, and guess what he does? He mumbles. Just spoon feeding these stupid names to people.
Yeah, Paul Sorvino's lips. Wonder why.
Lips, because he has giant lips. Wow, great. The only thing that doesn't make sense is Madonna plays a character named Breathless because she doesn't have asthma.
Because she'll take your breath away. She's so hot. I think is what.
I guess calling her Boobs McGee would be too on the nose.
But then Adam Sandler couldn't have that later on. Big Daddy.
Zach, have you ever seen Dick Tracy?
I haven't. It's on my list of movies that I do want to see, because like, for a lot of the, I mean, it's kind of funny because for a lot of the same reasons why you guys are like not into this movie, like the weird visuals and the weird ass like villains, that's something that like I'm into. Like I'm big on like comic books and shit. Like I read way too many comic books, and I've seen a lot of like Dick Tracy villains and stuff, but for whatever reason I just haven't gotten around to watching the movie. I want to see I want to see the guy with the little face. I want to see all this stuff. Like that's up my alley. Like you think that shit's weird, man. You got to read some like 90s X-Men. Like you got to read some of that stuff. You got to read Cable's actual backstory. Like there's some weird shit out there. So my tolerance for that kind of stuff is pretty high. So I'm it's something that I do want to check out at some point. I actually, what did you say it was streaming on?
Who?
HBO, isn't it?
Oh, HBO. That's right.
Shit, I don't have that one. Eventually, I'm going to watch this.
But Bob, it's interesting. I'm just thinking more about your Batman comparison. You got the villains as well. When you think about, Batman villains are typically have these on the nose names like the Penguin or the Riddler. Like they got the same villains.
Right.
I can imagine you can see Flat Top very much being a Batman villain, or No Face being a Batman villain, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's very much like Sin City mixed with the '89 Batman, only not as good as either one. And the whole time I'm thinking I'd like to see Robert Rodriguez remake this, and then I'm quickly going, no, I don't. I mean, I don't want to.
He did. It was called. It was that movie he made with Frank Miller. That piece of shit.
Oh, the Spirit.
Exactly.
I don't think he had anything. I thought that was all Frank Miller at that time.
It was. I think he produced it, but it was
right.
Frank Miller directed.
Yeah.
Which, Frank Miller.
Fuck that guy.
That guy.
Yeah, the other thought I had is William Forsythe's not a big star, and he's out there. He's kind of the main. He's the bad guy you see the most, I guess, at least for the first part of the movie. And I just kept wondering about the chemistry that he has with Al Pacino and anybody else he's on the screen with, and not really being a star like they are. I don't know why I was wondering that, but that's what I was thinking about while I was watching the movie.
You got Dustin Hoffman, who's there for reasons. Like, he doesn't even. I didn't understand his casting or why is he here? What does he do for this movie? I mean, you got to just kind of do a Dustin Hoffman thing.
Yeah, you got an A-list cast. I mean, Jimmy Cahn's in it. But it's Madonna, obviously. But it just, I don't know, really. they always try to put. It'd be like if Batman tried to put every bad guy he had in the first Batman instead of Joker. You know, you would get confused, you'd get bored, you'd kill everybody off, and then you have no sequel. So,
I would like just look. I'm like looking at like pictures of the villains and stuff. I would like to see like Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, if they could like adapt this for like Amazon or something as like a TV series. That'd be cool. Like, have you guys watched Preacher or The Boys, like the other shows that they produced?
I have not. My brother hates Preacher.
Oh, really?
He loves the comic book, but he hates what they did with it because it's not dark enough.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's yeah. They definitely retooled it for TV. Like it's vastly different. But those guys they do well with like obscure shit like this, and I feel like their production team could probably do something great. Like they're actually working on an adaptation of one of my favorites, Invincible, which I don't know when that's coming out, but I'd like to see them try to tackle Dick Tracy, because I know Green Hornet was kind of a turd, and I don't want to see Seth Rogen in it, but I think him and Evan Goldberg could probably turn this into like something like really cool.
As long as they don't have Warren Beatty in the way, they'll be fine.
Is he that bad? Is he just like a stiff board the whole time?
He's not bad. It's just he's stiff. Yeah, like he doesn't seem to have any. It's joyless. He's a joyless performer, and so often that he doesn't seem human. He doesn't seem like he enjoys anything.
Huh.
But he's also not like Brad Pitt. I mean, I know apparently he must be a good-looking guy, but it's just kind of him and Richard Gere both. You know, we've kind of noticed that throughout the going back to their movies. It just, I don't get it. There's just nothing that stands out about the guy. He carries himself like a movie star, I suppose, but he doesn't. I don't feel warranted.
I'm not very good at judging like whether or not I find a man attractive, I guess, but like I can tell what's appealing about Richard Gere, from the cheekbones to the eyes, you know, the smolder. I get that. That makes sense to me. Like Brad Pitt, I totally get it. It makes complete sense to me what people find, you know, visibly attractive about him. Warren Beatty's a little bit more of a mystery to me. I just don't see something about his beady eyes, and I just don't, and that laconic manner. I just don't find anything about him. I don't understand. I'm trying to put the pieces together in the puzzle to make it make sense to me, and it just never does.
Yeah, I mean, he was with good-looking women, I guess. He always had somebody on his shoulder. I guess maybe that's what it is. I don't know. 'Cause I think he was with Madonna during this, or after this, or something for a while. Obviously, Annette Bening later on. I don't know. Whatever. So I made my wife watch the Key and Peele sketch first. I'm like, do we have to watch? This should just be enough. And then I made my kids watch it. I ended up watching Key and Peele for like 2 hours, and then we put Gremlins 2 on, the new batch.
Gremlins 2, the character of Gizmo is back. He's being cared for at some old guy's shop in New York. When the old guy dies, the shop gets torn down. He happens to end up in the hands of a couple of scientists who work in the same building as Zach Galligan's character from the first movie. Perfect timing. Yeah. Zach Galligan's character is working for a Donald Trump type guy, played by John Glover. He's got his girlfriend, played by Phoebe Cates, who's also working in that same building, conveniently enough, because they need her for the plot as well. They even bring in the neighbors from the previous Gremlins movie, who happen to be visiting New York at this moment. I mean, just perfect timing for all of this to happen. I hate this movie. I was so angry throughout this movie. This is just so stupid and juvenile and idiotic and not pleasant. It's an unpleasant movie at times. Like, just looking at these Gremlins. The only good thing about this movie is Tony Randall's voice, and there's not nearly enough of it. Like, I wanted that Gremlin to be the one who is the star of the movie. Like, that should be the one we're all following. He should be the one that's like scheming all this together. as opposed to this boring Zach Galligan, who is an incredibly boring actor. He is uncharismatic, uninteresting. I didn't care what happened to him. He is just not interesting in any way. He is so incredibly bland. And I wanted Tony Randall Gremlin to be the star of this movie just so I could listen to his voice, because that was the most interesting thing in the entire movie. Then the movie just stops for like 2 minutes to do this bit with Hulk Hogan. What the fuck was that? What was that? Why? Why does that exist? Whose idea was this?
Cocaine.
Let's just have Gremlins stop the movie, and we'll stop the movie. Hulk Hogan will cut a promo on them, and then we'll go back to the movie for reasons. And then the movie Gremlins exists within the movie Gremlins 2 for some reason. Like, which, by the way, I mean, if you didn't think Leonard Maltin was already a piece of crap critic, here he is, playing a critic in a movie. Good for him.
Yeah, this is when we first started the show. I think Sharknado came out that same year, and Sharknado was better than this. And but it's the same thing, except for they had more money. At least you could laugh at some of the lack of money on Sharknado. This is they're trying to be dumb, and it just I don't care. I mean, if you're gonna be dumb, do Hot Shots, do Naked Gun. Don't make a sequel to not that it's I don't like Gremlins. I think Gremlins sucks. But this is just I don't. It's not funny. It's not fun. My kids didn't even like it. My wife tried to pretend on Facebook they did, but it was dumb. All right, defend it, Zach.
I wholeheartedly love this movie from beginning to end. This is just like, this is my type. Again, this is my type of weird. This is the dumbest shit. Like, this is literally an hour and 46 minutes of a live action Looney Tunes cartoon. I mean,
that hour and 46 minutes is so much longer than an hour and 46 minutes.
I know. And there's like, there's like 15 subplots going on in this movie that don't really make any goddamn sense. I'll tell you that. I'll give you that. Like, I'll straight up tell you guys that the plot of this movie is fucking stupid. Like, this is a dumb movie. That is why I'm in. We've got literally a visual gag of one gremlin holding up a thing of acid that says, "Acid, don't throw in face." And then he immediately splashes it into the face of another one, who then becomes the Phantom of the Opera. Like, you get this, like, bat gremlin. You get this fucking, like, spider gremlin. Like, you get all this, like, weird shit in there that doesn't make any goddamn sense. But, oh my God, I love this. My girlfriend loves this. Like, everyone I show this movie to loves this movie. And I don't it's hard to explain, obviously, to you guys who are just like, all the things that I loved about it. You guys are like, yeah, nah. Like, it is literally like pure stupidity from beginning to end, and I love it, and I want more of it. And I know that they've been talking about doing another Gremlins with the puppets, because I think they did a commercial a couple years ago that got attention and got them wanting to do it again. I would absolutely love it if they followed this instead of the first one, because the first one, I'll admit, I don't remember it. I have seen the second one so many times. The first one basically doesn't exist to me. Like, this one's great. The New York dance sequence is I don't even know, man. Like, my love for that scene is just crazy. I legit, like, I'm not even like making this up. I legit have that pop up into my head at least once a day. I'll just be like operating a forklift, and all of a sudden in my head, like, it's just I don't know, man. This movie is like in my DNA. Like, I love it. They're like the fucking. I have like the IMDb page pulled up, and one of the goopy looking bastards is looking straight at me. They're gross and disgusting, and I want to watch it again. Like, I watched it last night at like 1 a.m, and I want to watch it again. It's just one of those movies, and it's not even something I can't even say like this is from my childhood. Like, I've watched this for the first time like maybe 10 years ago, because like a friend of mine was just like, dude, have you ever seen Gremlins 2? And I'm like, no. And it's the shit. It's kind of like, it's one of those 80s sequels that doesn't make any goddamn sense, but it does in some way. Like Short Circuit 2. Isn't that the one where he went like commando and it made no goddamn sense? Like, I love that shit. Like my parents, like we watched so many 80s movies growing up that like when I see the weird shit like as an adult, that's my thing, man. And then like obviously this one 1990 right in the tail end of all that, and then like a whole different batch of weird, which is what I grew up on. Like I love this. I love the weird visuals. Like I want all of this. I want this forever. I can't wait to show this like down the road if I have kids or whatever. I can't wait to like force these kids to watch it. Like this is one of those movies.
I think Key and Peele destroyed this movie. It was just it's the most brilliant evisceration of everything that's in this movie, and that sketch is way funnier than anything in this movie for me. Especially that last line, it's all in the movie. That's the best, because you're like, it can't all be in the movie, and then you watch the movie afterwards, you're like, it's all there. The electricity thing, all of it is there. The electricity gremlin is even important to the end of the movie. Like, it's all there.
And you sit there and because you can picture it actually happening that way, or maybe not as goofy, but you can still picture all these studio executives throwing shit around in a boardroom, and then it was too corporate. You know, that's why the weirdness isn't weird enough for me. It's too thought out and calculated that it's just kind of, instead of being weird, it's, at least for me, it's dumb. You know, it's more. I mean, Sean likes to say when it's on accident, you can laugh at something. I always feel bad laughing at things too. But a lot of movies in the '80s, you know, didn't have the budget, didn't have the first movie like this to go on and be weird and dumb. You know, I'll take that Danzig movie we watched a couple weeks ago over this any day of the week.
I won't go that far. I never want to see Veronica ever again in my life.
I'm not saying I want to, but I'll watch it over this.
I would go the other way. I would watch this for Tony Randall's voice as opposed to anything that Danzig did.
From what I understand, like from what I've actually read, because like with it being the 30th anniversary, there have been like more articles popping up about like Gremlins 2. From what I understand, this movie was like they let the guy who directed, which I don't know if he was in any way, shape, or form like had anything to do with the first one, but they pretty much let him do whatever the hell he wanted. So like this movie was like kind of like his Batman and Robin, where he went out there and just went, all right, let's see some crazy shit. Like he just like immediately became like the Hollywood Vince McMahon, basically. He just wanted to see some crazy shit. And I don't.
It was Joe Dante who directed the first movie.
Oh, he did the first one too?
Yeah, he did this.
Okay, yeah, so they pretty much just let him do whatever the fuck he wanted with the second one. Like from what I was reading, like he had pretty much complete control and just wanted to see like crazy gremlins. Like I'm in for that. Like that's the sentiment I want, man. Like I want them to like just experiment and throw some random shit out there, like the fucking the lady gremlin. We haven't talked about Greta.
The fact that that one guy from Seinfeld ends up having sex with her at the end.
Hell yeah!
Because that's the visual I wanted this movie to go out on, was that guy basically fucking a gremlin. That was really the highlight of my day.
Oh, I'll send you some links.
No.
Okay, I don't have that. But yeah, Greta.
It exists though. It exists.
She doesn't make, like, all of them get wacky powers, and her power is like to be a woman. Like, it's so funny. There's also the Flasher gremlin. Like, oh, I love this movie so much, guys. Like, this is one of those things that's like, I'm always gonna love this movie. It's great. This is a good time. This is my kind of weird.
Yeah, I just can't call it experimental. I got to call it calculated because I don't know. In a lot of ways, it makes me understand why Sean hates Planet Terror. I still like that movie, but I also haven't gone back in a while. But I mean, he's trying to make a bad movie, and he's trying to do stupid shit. And I don't know. To me, that just maybe if it wasn't for Key and Peele, but they just totally ruined. I mean, they take all the fun out of it, and kind of I don't know. That's just me.
No, it does expose the kind of like the seemingly there's this marriage of Dante's kind of weird idea because Joe Dante is kind of a weird director. If you look at the rest of his filmography, he does have that weird adult sense of humor that he's kind of bringing to bear on this what the executives want to be a children's movie, essentially. And those two things to me don't gel very well.
I get that. I mean, I like I said earlier, I fully understand. Like, this isn't peak cinema. Like, this is junk food. I put this it's on the same shelf as Space Jam, and right. I love Space Jam. Yeah, and Hot Rod. I will die on those crocs. Forever. Like, I don't care. That is my burden.
I'll take Troll 2. All right. Well, that is our show. Next week, we got Defy Bloods, this new Spike Lee movie. It's out now if you want to watch it. We didn't give time to get to it, so we're going to watch that. We don't have a classic yet, but we'll let you know. 1990, Betsy's Wedding and RoboCop 2 come out, and I'm sure we'll come up with some other stuff along the way. Have you thought of anything while we've been recording, Sean?
No, I did not, unfortunately.
So we'll fill you in later on about all that. Do you guys have time for Flick Shard or no?
Yeah, let's go.
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Or Christmas with the Cranks.
Billboards.
3 Billboards.
Yes. Even though I'm a Christmas with the Cranks defender. Captain America.
It's honestly not bad.
Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Hunger Games, Catching Fire.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like both those movies. I'll go with Captain America, but Catching Fire is really good.
Yeah, same here. Catching Fire is definitely my favorite out of those movies, though, but Winter Soldier all the way.
Agreed. Flight Plan or Date Night?
Date Night. It's less miserable.
Yeah.
I like me some Tina Fey.
Election or Enter the Dragon?
Election.
Enter the Dragon.
It's Election, but after watching the Bruce Lee documentary, I feel bad picking Election. Frequency or Ghost? Coming up later in a couple weeks, I think.
Yeah, we've got Josh coming back for that one. What is it again? Ghost and what?
Frequency.
I have a soft spot for Frequency, but it's Ghost, I guess.
Yeah, I'll go Ghost. I don't really care for that movie all too much, but I like all the jokes that have stemmed from it.
With Frequency, I like elements of the idea of it that kind of work, but it's kind of sappy as well.
Babel, End of Days.
Babel.
I don't think I've seen either of them.
Oh, I'll go Babel then. End of Days is bad. Animal House, Dune.
Animal House.
I'll go Animal House, but I do like Dune.
Animal House as well. Lady in the Water or Arachnophobia? Another movie coming up later this year.
I can't even remember anything about Arachnophobia, but I know that Lady in the Water is a complete pile of shit, but it's a pile of shit that I admire for being so boldly shitty, and so I'm going to pick Lady in the Water.
Definitely not going Lady in the Water. That movie can eat a rancid butt. Like, I don't even care. I'll pick anything over that.
I'm
movie.
going Arachnophobia, and I think that does what Gremlins 2 tried to do. The Martian, Closer.
Ooh, good one. Those are two really good movies. Damn.
I'll go The Martian.
That's hard.
I really like Closer a lot. It's a nasty movie, but it's one that's got a lot of like a real sharpness to it that I really love. I'm gonna go The Martian. It's more enjoyable, but I really love the artistry, the scripting and the acting of Closer.
Yeah, I'll go Closer, but obviously Martian wins. But yeah, that was a tough one. Office Space, Scary Movie 3.
Office Space.
Yep. The Evil Dead, American Werewolf in London.
Evil Dead.
Which Evil Dead?
1981. Both movies. Both from the 81. Have you seen The Coconuts, Sean?
Did you guys see?
All right, go ahead, Zach.
I don't remember.
Did you guys see the tour that Bruce Campbell's going on for The Evil Dead? They're going to do a drive-in tour.
Yeah, it's going to be like an hour away from me, but the tickets are insanely high.
Are they?
Like $117.
Fuck that! I'll just watch
for
it
a minimum.
I'll watch it at home, and then I can watch the second one. I don't have to drive home.
Is it per car? Is it per car or per person in the car?
I couldn't tell you for sure, but the part it's divided into two. Like the tickets are one, and then you have to pay extra because Bruce is going to be there. So but you have to buy them both.
Fuck that. I have all three on Vudu. I'll just stay home.
Yeah, the minimum ticket was like $117 when I broke it down.
If you guys watch the Chappelle stand-up special he did that just dropped, it's like half an hour long.
I heard about it, but I haven't checked it out yet.
I mean, it's
on YouTube, right?
Forget the powerful part of it right off the bat. I mean, he goes, "This is the first concert since all this has happened." He goes, "Well, I guess it's not the first. Some people are doing the drive-in thing where you honk at the jokes if you think that's funny, but that just doesn't seem like fun to me." Resident Evil Extinction, Braveheart.
Oh, fuck.
I love when you have to pick Braveheart.
Yeah, Braveheart. I've never seen the Resident Evil movies, and I'm keeping it that. I'm a huge fan of the games. I'm good. I can't do it. I love the games too much. I can't do it.
And I like Braveheart, so. Dangerous Liaisons.
Yeah, Braveheart's right.
Dangerous Liaisons, West Side Story.
Huh.
West Side Story.
Yeah, I kind of like West Side Story. I'll be interested to see what Spielberg does with it.
I forgot about that. When's that coming out?
Next year.
Okay.
Chasing Amy, The Manchurian Candidate, 2004.
Chasing Amy.
The Fifth Element, Alice in Wonderland, 2010.
Oh, The Fifth Element by a lot. By a lot.
God, Fifth Element, man.
Yeah.
That's like a kid fighting his dad. It's not even fair.
16 Candles, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
16 Candles.
16 Candles.
Pride and Prejudice, What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Pride and Prejudice.
I'll go Gilbert Grape.
I don't even give a shit. I'll go Gilbert Grape. Weird Science, Killing Them Softly.
Weird Science. Killing Them Softly should have been a much better movie than what it is.
Is that the movie where Brad Pitt doesn't show up for like 45 minutes and he's a star or something like that?
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. It was weird.
That movie was like a Tarantino knockoff. They kind of were like, oh, if we just put a bunch of guys at a table and we have them say the word fuck every other word, it's going to bring the crowd in. And it just kind of, it fell flat. Like Brad Pitt was shown in the trailer and on the poster and everything. And he's probably in maybe a quarter of it. And it's just spliced throughout the movie. Just like a one and done type of movie.
Yeah.
Here's a weird one I've never had happen before. Rambo First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3.
That is weird.
I mean, it's 2 all the way. 2 is amazing. 3 sucks.
That was one of the strangest references in Gremlins 2 is the Rambo stuff. I just kind of
pushed him too far.
And it was Rambo 3 too. that they were showing. Not even Rambo 2's fun. Rambo 3 is just garbage.
Gizmo had to become a war. They had to have that training montage.
Oh my god. The Rambo 2.
Yeah.
Not that it matters to me.
Yeah. I don't think you watched when we went back to it. I can't select it. It won't let me select. Oh, there we go.
I still need to watch Last Blood. I know it's terrible. But, I have to. It's one of those things I feel like I have to.
You don't have to stick a penny in a light socket, and you don't have to watch this movie.
It's not even. You might like it. You like Gremlins too. Maybe you will.
Let's. Yeah, okay. I'm not even gonna. I have no rebuttal. You're not wrong.
The first half is so bad acting wise. It's just like, this is a real movie, and they can't even act. And it's like the fifth Rambo movie, so it should at least be cheesy, and it's not even that. It's just bad, and then it turns into Home Alone.
Did they end up doing the sci-fi shit that he wanted to do? Because I remember leading up to it, he was saying that he wanted to fight aliens, and he wanted to fight a mutant, and then someone was talking about at some point they almost added the Predator. Did they do anything like that, or was it just him
not
versus
even
dudes?
Close? I mean, it's worse than what Willis did with the Die Hard movies. I mean, it's basically a bad Stallone action movie that he just put a Rambo title on, because he's not Rambo in this at all. He doesn't do anything Rambo-like. It's just bad.
It's one of those. I'm waiting for Hulu or Netflix or someone to get it, or hopefully it'll be on HBO Max when I get that for the Snyder Cut. I kind of want to watch it just to. I've seen all the other ones. They got progressively worse. I am not into Stallone, modern day Stallone, to be honest with you. I really couldn't care less, but it's just one of those things. I feel like I have to watch it at some point just to put a pin in it and be all right, Rambo's done. I
like modern day Stallone when he's not driving. When he's just kind of like Will Ferrell, when you got someone else directing him and doing or writing, the Creed. I like both Creed movies a lot, but everything else is kind of.
I still need to watch Creed 2. I own it. We were gonna go watch Creed 1 and 2, and I decided shit, I can't just. I feel like she needs to at least watch Rocky 4, because she had never seen any of the Rocky movies, and so put a pin on that. And it's been a very long time, and I still haven't watched Creed 2. And I think I bought it when it came out digitally, so I really need to do it, because I love the first Creed, but it's also another one of those things I love.
Do
Ryan
that
Coogler's Creed.
and don't do that and don't bother with Rambo. Just watch Creed 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just it's one of those things. Also, it's do I start her off on just Rocky 4, or do I show her 1 and 2 so she knows who Apollo Creed is?
I will tell you, I tried to show my wife Rocky 4 when we first started dating, and all of a sudden it hit me that, oh my God, this isn't a good movie. It's just him, it's him working out for most of it. It's
a movie that I reference constantly, but it's terrible.
I know. I mean, it's a ton of fun. Don't get me wrong. It's a ton of fun, but it's not good. And you almost got to watch, if you're going to do it, Rocky 1, Rocky 4, Creed 1, and Creed 2. That's what you got to have Rocky in there to truly appreciate Creed. Well, you don't need it, but it'll make you appreciate Creed even more. If you really want to appreciate Creed, watch them all, because Rocky 5's in there. And Rocky 3 and 4 are so over the top fun, and then Creed brings it all back around to back to the original Rocky level, and it's really weird how they do. It's really quite impressive if you think about it.
I really liked Ryan Coogler's vision, and as soon as they said that, Stallone directed Creed 2, right?
No, he was going to, and then thankfully he did not.
Okay, good. Well, that was another reason why I've kind of hesitated too, because I really don't want to see Stallone's version of Coogler's Creed, because
I believe he wrote it though. But I mean, it's pretty good.
Okay.
It's not Creed, and the director did a good job of cutting out a fight scene between Stallone and Drago. That would have been terrible.
Oh my god, that was another thing I was worried about. I didn't want to see that.
The odd thing about it is, when all is said and done, the best father was Ivan Drago.
Really?
Spoiler alert. I don't know that they meant to do that, but it definitely comes off that way. But yeah, I guess we can be done. That was a good ending. Thanks for joining us, Zach. That was fun.
Yeah.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime. I'm always happy to do it.
Just any other shit.
Especially nowadays where the
about.
only thing there is to do is watch movies, so I'm in.
Well, look at the list of movies that came out in 1990 and let us know if there's any you want to come back and talk about.
Oh, I'm sure there's got to be something.
Ghost is taken, though, so.
It's Skype. I think we can have as many people as we want.
You guys can have that. Which I took her through all of Community, and that episode with Tony Hale and the pottery class. Oh my god! Like favorite Ghost reference. Like it's so fucking good.
Genius, absolutely genius.
And I bet you Dances with Wolves is probably taken too. I'm sure Josh will come back for that one.
It's okay.
God, I have to fucking watch that. Jesus fucking Christ.
We'll make that the classic.
Good luck. I'm gonna watch literally anything else.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Have a good one.
See you.
Bye.
You too.